And what happens when we are blocked?
All kinds of things. Usually, one of the big ones is that we're actually picking up on other people's points of view and other people's judgments of the way something should be without even realizing it. One of the other, and I know you're big on tools, like let's give people things that they can use, and so am I, because I in everything I had done before Access, we didn't have, there weren't the tools to change the things I wanted to change. And when I found Access, I was like, oh my gosh, there's an entire toolbox here. We have over 8,000 tools that people can use to change things, and they're really practical. So when you talk about being blocked, one of the tools that I need a bit of an explanation here. One of the things that we found is that 98% of the stuff that goes through your head on a daily basis is not yours. You're picking it up from other people. You're like a big psychic radio receiver. And this is another, awareness of that energy thing. Like if you're around sad people, you ever notice how you start to get sad too? It's like that, but we do it with everybody. And so we have a tool in Access where we suggest, we also have a free app. It's only in English right now. It's in the process of getting translated. And it's called the Access Consciousness Who Does This Belong To app. Okay. And what we suggest that you do is ask, who does this belong to every thought, feeling, emotion, judgment, sadness, or heaviness that you have for 3 days. And if it lightens up at all, it's not yours. You're picking it up from somebody else around you. And if you'll do that consistently for 3 days, at the end of 3 days, you walk around like you're in a walking, talking meditation. And you break the machine that makes you think that everything you're aware of is yours. Because, there's two things. Like if you look and go, okay, so what's the difference between I'm sad, which is one thing, and I perceive sadness? With the I'm sad, you owned it now. With I perceive sadness, it's like, oh, there it is. It's out there, but I'm aware of it. And so what you start to become aware of is that you're really aware of other people's sadness, other people's stuck, other people's blockages. And so when we're stuck, it's primarily that we're trying to live a life or create from a way that is not big enough for us, or it doesn't really have to do with us. Like we're trying to, we pick up all kinds of things when we're growing up about the right way to be, the right way to create, all of this sort of stuff. And so we tend to get in a constant state of judgment of us. But 98% of what we think we're supposed to do doesn't really work for us. And so the stuckness primarily is trying to live a life that doesn't work for us and trying to play the game, if you will, according to other people's rules.
Wow, that's powerful. How do you arrive in access consciousness?
Oh boy. Well, 19 years ago, I was a chiropractor. I was starting my second practice in Santa Barbara, California, which if you've ever been there, it's just paradise. It's beautiful. And I had been unhappy for almost 3 years. And from the outside, it looked like I had the perfect life. I was starting, chiropractic, I was finally out in practice. I had what everybody thought was the perfect girlfriend. I thought she was a perfect girlfriend. And yet, even though my life looked like it was perfect from the outside, I hated it. I hated waking up in the morning. And I was one of these seekers, one of these people that knows there's something different possible. And I was doing every technique I could. I was going to every weekend workshop I could. I was reading books on self-help, how to change money, how to change happiness. None of it worked. and what would happen is I'd go to a weekend workshop and I'd feel really good. And then by Wednesday, it was like all of it had gone away. And this happened one particular time. Wednesday morning is always when it seemed to happen. So I woke up Wednesday morning and I'm like, oh man, I'm sad and depressed again. And so I said, universe, you have 6 months. Either my life changes or I'm killing myself. And I thought, because nothing else had ever worked, I thought I was going to get to leave. I was like, yay, I'm out of here. And then I started getting a sense of peace, which was interesting because I was like, bye-bye. And I came across an ad for Access Consciousness, and it said, Access, all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. And it had this girl's phone number, name is Shannon. And so anyway, I ended up calling her, and I said, what do you do? She said, we do all kinds of stuff. We just change stuff. And she she felt sort of like a happy marshmallow, you know? And I had nobody in my life that was not doing constant amounts of judgment, and yet she wasn't. And I was like, well, this energy's different. I said, what are you going to do for me? She said, well, I think a good place to start would be with this thing called the bars. These, I'll touch your head really lightly. I'm like, hey, I've done a lot of weird stuff. I live in California. That's fine. Let's do this weird thing. Probably won't work anyway. So she comes to my chiropractic office. I lay down on the table. She puts her hands on my head, and I feel this energy that feels like this, like liquid light, love, peace, like this connection with the world. And I was like, wow, that's different. Okay. And after a few minutes, I started giggling like a little kid, and I was like, hee, hee, ha, hee, ha. And she would move her hands in different places, and I would giggle more. And I was like, ha, ha, ha. And I'd never met this girl. I had no idea what she was doing. And so an hour and 15 minutes later, I get up and I have gratitude for being alive, a sense that everything is possible. And I had gone into the session depressed and suicidal. And I remember looking up the clouds going, wow, has it always been this beautiful here? And so with that, a few months later, I took the first Access classes. And then right after I took the first Access classes, Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, he lived in Santa Barbara, and I'd never met him, and he called because he wanted a chiropractic session. And so he came and we traded. He worked on me, and then I worked on him. And it changed my whole world to have him work on me, but also Access had, and the tools had. And after meeting him in person, I started working on him regularly. And then I started calling him and talking to him and going over to his house. And within 3 months, I was like co-creating Access with him.
Wow.
And yeah, and it was this match. You know how it's just some things, some things are just meant to be. This was definitely one of those things that's meant to be. And we've been best friends and business partners for 19 years now.